He knelt. The Dragon King knelt before the whole Drake Council. To me. The daughter they threw away. The girl he bought to die. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back. To where it started. To a closed door. And my own name spoken like a debt. It has to be Ren, my father said. He didn't look at me when he said it. He looked at the fire. I was standing right there. In the doorway with a tray of cold tea. They'd forgotten I could hear. She's the eldest, my mother said. It's only right. Only right. As if I were a coin they'd been saving. You should understand the tithe. Once a generation, the Ash Court asks for one of us. One soul given to the Dragon King. And that soul is taken to be forgotten, not killed. Worse. Erased. Wiped from every memory that ever held them. Your face, your name, the sound of your laugh, gone. As though you had never drawn breath at all. That is the forgetting. And this year, the tithe had come for House Fane. Cassia is promised, my mother went on. There are 3 suitors. We can't waste her. Cassia, my sister. Golden, adored. There are 3 suitors. We can't waste her. The one the whole house turned toward like a flower to the sun. And Ren, my father said. A pause. The fire popped. Ren was always going to be difficult to place. I set the tray down. Very gently. I did not want them to hear my hands shake. So that was my worth. Fully counted. A sister too precious to risk. A daughter too plain to keep. The king came for the tithe at dusk. I had never seen a Dragon King before. No one in our valley had, not in living memory. I expected something monstrous. Smoke and ruin. What walked into our hall was worse than a monster. He was a man, tall, still, dressed in black with no crown at all. His eyes were the color of banked coals, and they moved across the room slowly, like he had all the time in the world, and we had none. My father bowed too low. Your Majesty, we offer our eldest, Ren. The king's gaze found me, and he stopped. I felt it land on my skin like heat from a doorway. He looked at me the way you look at something you've lost and found again. Not cruelty, not appetite. Recognition. It lasted half a breath. Then it was gone, sealed behind a cold face. This one, he said. Not a question. This one, Majesty, my father agreed, relieved. The king set a purse on our table, heavy, the price of a soul, paid to the people selling it. Cassia wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother had already turned away. Come, the king said to me. That was all. One word, and I followed him out into the dark, because I had nowhere else in the world to go. We rode through the night without speaking. I kept waiting for him to be terrible. He simply rode. Straight-backed. Silent. A lantern of cold patience. You can ask, he said at last, without turning. Ask what? What everyone asks. Whether it will hurt. The forgetting. My throat went dry. Will it? You won't remember enough to know. I should have wept. Strangely, I didn't. I'd been forgotten my whole life in that house. At least his court would make it official. Why me? I asked instead. My sister is the beauty, the prize. You could have demanded her. For a long moment he said nothing. The horse's hooves filled the silence. I take who I take, he said, and nothing more. But I had seen his face in the hall. That wasn't the face of a man choosing at random. The Ash Court rose out of the morning fog like a thing that had grown there. Black stone. Towers like folded wings. And over all of it that strained gray hush, as if the air itself had agreed to keep quiet. Servants met us. They were gentle with me, which frightened me more than cruelty would have. You're gentle with the dying. A woman named Hale took me to a chamber far too fine for a tithe. How long? I asked her. Until the forgetting. She folded a blanket and would not look up. The king sets the date. He hasn't yet. Why not? He always sets it the first night. She smoothed the blanket flat. He hasn't, my lady. That's all I know. When she left, I noticed the mark. On the inside of my wrist. A thin line of pale gold. Like a healed scar I'd never earned. It hadn't been there in my father's house. I was sure of it. I pressed it. It was warm, and somewhere down the long stone hall I swear I felt, an answering warmth, as if a second heart had just turned toward mine. The king ate alone. The first night, he had me brought to his table anyway. We sat at opposite ends of a long black table, and the silence stretched until I couldn't bear it. You're not what they say, I told him. His knife paused. And what do they say? That you're a monster who collects the doomed. I am exactly that. He set the knife down. Don't make me into something kinder, Wren. It will only hurt you more. It will only hurt you more. It was the first time he'd said my name. He said it carefully, like it was breakable. You said it strangely, I murmured. My name. Did I? As though you'd said it before. He looked at me then, that same flash from the hall. There and gone. Eat, he said. The food is the one mercy this place offers. But I had caught it again, and I was beginning to understand that the Dragon King was hiding something far larger than I was. Days passed, and the date was never set. I should have been a prisoner. Instead, I was let to roam. I found a library that breathed dust, a garden of gray roses that bloomed without color, and everywhere that hush, that great forgetting quiet. I learned the servants' names. They learned mine, and seemed startled to be using it, as though no tithe had ever lasted long enough to be called anything. And every evening, I sat at the far end of the king's table. We argued mostly about cruelty, about mercy, about whether a person was only what others remembered of them. If they forget you, I asked one night, are you gone? Truly? He turned his cup in his hand. Yes. Then half of me is already gone. My family forgot me years ago. They just hadn't paid the fee. The cup went still. That, he said quietly, is the cruelest thing anyone has said in this hall. And you said it about yourself. For one moment, the cold face cracked. Underneath it was something that looked, terribly, like grief. Then he rose and left without another word. That night, the mark on my wrist burned so hot it woke me. I followed the heat, barefoot, down the cold halls, toward the warmth I'd felt that first night. It led me to a door. His door. It was open a crack. Inside, the king stood over a table, and on the table lay a single document, weighted at the corners. I shouldn't have looked. I looked. It was an order. A decree of forgetting. A name written at the top in a clean, certain hand. My name. Wren of House Vane. And at the bottom, the seal already pressed, the signature already there. His. He had set the date after all. He had signed me away to be erased. Every day we argued. Every night he said my name like it mattered. The order had already been waiting. The Dragon King had bought me to die, and he'd decided when. He turned and saw me in the doorway. Wren, I ran. I ran, but the ash court is built to keep its dead. The halls turned me. Every door led back. I found myself in the gray rose garden, and there was nowhere left to run to. He came slowly. He didn't chase. That was almost worse. You signed it, I said. All this time. Yes. You sat across from me. You said my name like it was something. And you'd already decided to erase me. I signed that order, he said. 11 years ago. The night went silent. That's not possible. You wrote my name. Wren of House Vane. I know. He stood very still among the colorless roses. I have signed that same order every year for 11 years, and every year I have not sealed the date. Tonight you saw it before I burned it. As I burn it every time. Why would you? Because the council demands a tithe. His voice was low and even, the voice of a man holding something heavy without letting it show. And every year I take the one they offer and bring them here, and I do not let the forgetting touch them. I hide them. I keep them. The servants you met. Hail, the others. They are the tithes. Every soul this court was sent to erase I have kept alive and remembered. I thought of the servants who knew their own names, who had seemed surprised to be called by them. You've been saving them, I whispered. I have been stealing them back from the dark, one a year. It is the only war I am allowed to fight. Then why sign the order at all? To show the council I have obeyed. The paper is the lie that buys their lives. He looked at the document in his hand, then at me. I sign the name. I never seal the day. The day never comes. My knees felt strange. Then I'm not going to be forgotten. No. Something moved behind his eyes. Not by my hand. Never by my hand. Least of all you. Why least of all me? And there it was again, the look from the hall. The lost and found. Because you have done this before, Wren. He said it so gently. You were the tithe once already. The garden tilted. No. I would remember. You wouldn't. That's the whole cruelty of it. He took one step closer. 11 years ago, House Vane gave a daughter to the tithe. A small one. 7 years old. Too young, they said, to be missed. The fever. My missing year. The gap in my own childhood that no one in my family would ever explain. You were sick. Wren, you were sick a long time. Don't ask. They told everyone she died of fever, he said. They held a small grave. They moved on. And the court took her here to be forgotten. There's a grave, I said. The words came out cracked. Behind our chapel. A little one. No name on it. My mother used to take me past it and go quiet, and I never understood why she held my hand so tight. You stood at your own grave, he said softly. And no one ever told you whose it was. Stop, I said, please. I was a boy king then. New crowned. Frightened. The forgetting was beginning. And a 7-year-old girl reached up and took my hand. His voice cracked, just once, like ice on a pond. She wasn't afraid of me. No one had ever not been afraid of me. She said, You look lonely. I'll stay until you're not. Tears were running down my face. I didn't know when they'd started. The forgetting took her name. It took her memory of this place. It took her childhood, and the year she'd lived, and it sent her back to a family who had already buried her. His jaw tightened, but it could not take what she'd done, because she had marked me. He turned his wrist over. There, against the pale skin, a thin line of gold. The twin of mine. The flame bond, he said. A child made it without knowing. She gave me the only thing I had ever been given freely, and then the world took her away from me and made me watch her forget. What was I like? I asked. The question hurt to ask. The year I can't reach. Was I happy here? Before they sent me back? For the first time, he smiled. It was a small breaking thing. You named the roses, he said. All of them. You decided the gray ones were sleeping, not dead. You told me they'd wake up if someone was patient enough. He looked at the colorless garden around us. I have been patient for 11 years, Wren. I have been patient for 11 years, Wren. I kept the garden exactly as you left it, waiting. I pressed my own scarred wrist to my chest. You sent me home, I breathed. I sent her home because I was a boy and I had no power to stop it. And it broke something in me that has never set right. He closed the distance now, slow, careful, as if I might shatter. And every year since, when the council demands a soul, I take one and I save them, because I could not save her. And this year, I said, this year they offered me a daughter of House Vane. His eyes shone. And I rode out half mad, telling myself it could not be. And I walked into that hall and I saw you. You stopped, I whispered. In the doorway. You stopped. I knew you, he said simply. Older, sadder, but you. The bond on my wrist had gone warm for the first time in 11 years. I would have paid your father every coin in the world. You bought me, I said, to die. I bought you, he said, so that no one else could be the one to take you. I bought you to bring you home. He stopped just before me. I have never once intended to forget you, Wren. I have spent 11 years trying to remember you hard enough to undo it. I should have had 100 things to say. I had only one. I felt it, I said. The first night. The warmth down the hall. I thought I was imagining it. You weren't. He lifted his hand, not quite touching my face. It knows you. It always knew you. I'm the only one it ever called home, and you're the one who made it. I don't know how long we stood there in the gray roses, long enough for the cold to stop mattering. Then the bells began to ring. They were not gentle bells. The king's whole body changed. The council, he said, they've come for the seal. Hale found us in the corridor, breathless. Majesty, the Drake Council is in the hall. And she looked at me, stricken. House Vane is with them. The father. The golden sister. My family. Here. They've come to be sure the tithe is spent, the king said grimly. To watch the order sealed with their own eyes. They want her gone for certain, this time. Why? I said. They already threw me away. Because a discarded thing that comes back, he said, is a debt that can speak. You are the only soul alive who knows House Vane murdered a child by tithe and called it fever. They don't want you forgotten to obey the court. His eyes were terrible and clear. They want you forgotten to keep their secret. The Drake Council filled the great hall, 7 of them, robed, ancient, the law of the Ash Court given faces. And before them stood my father, my mother, and Cassia, golden even now, looking anywhere but at me. Bring the tithe, the eldest counselor said. I was brought. But this time I did not come like a coin. I walked to the center of the hall on my own feet, and I stopped in front of my father. You have a grave behind the chapel, I said. The hall went still. No name on it. I asked you once whose it was. Do you remember what you told me? He said nothing. You told me to stop asking questions that upset your wife. My voice did not shake. I was surprised by that. It was mine. You buried me at 7 and kept the coin, and when the court came back, you reached for me again. Wren, my mother said faintly. You don't get to say it, I told her. You've barely said it in 11 years. Cassia lifted her chin. She's making a scene, she said to the council. her court smile thin. She always did want attention. Sign the order. We'd all like to go home. Yes, my father said, recovering. Be done with it. She was never anything but trouble to place. I looked at my sister. Golden, adored. The flower the whole house had turned toward. For the first time in my life, I did not envy her. You were spared, I said quietly. I hope it was worth what it cost you to watch. And the Dragon King, feared, cold, the monster who collects the doomed, stepped forward with the order in his hand. Then he tore it in half. The hall gasped. The counselors rose. You forget yourself, Majesty, the eldest hissed. The tithe is law. Then I will answer to the law, the king said. But not with her. He turned to the council. And then, before the 7 of them, before the whole Ash Court, before the family who had sold me twice, the Dragon King went down. He knelt. On the black stone he knelt, and the sound it made rang through the hall like a struck bell. Majesty. The counselor began, appalled. 11 years ago, the king said, and his voice carried to every corner. This court took a child of 7 and erased her. Housebane gave her to die and called it fever and kept the coin. I was a boy. I let it happen. I have knelt to my own shame every night since. Cassia's smile was gone. My father had gone white. That child marked me before she was taken. He lifted his wrist. The gold caught the light. She gave me the flame bond freely, asking nothing, and the forgetting could erase her name from the world, but it could not erase her from me. He raised his head and looked at me, and the whole hall turned to follow his eyes. She came back. The world tried to throw her away twice, and still she came back to me. She is a tithe, the counselor said. She is no one. She is my ember, the Dragon King said. The words struck the hall like fire. By the oldest law of the Ash Court, he said, rising now, slow and certain, a king may name one soul his ember. One soul the forgetting may never touch. One soul written into the bond itself, unerasable, for as long as the line endures. He held out his hand to me across the stone. I claim her, before the council, before her blood. Let it be witnessed. I looked at my father, at the man who had not looked at me when he sold me. He looked at me now. They all did. Ren, the king said softly, only to me. Will you let me remember you out loud for the rest of my life? I crossed the hall, past the council, past Cassia, who flinched, past my father, who opened his mouth and found nothing in it. I put my marked wrist against his. The gold flared between us, bright as a sunrise in that gray hall, and I felt it. Not a second heart down a far corridor anymore, but right here, beating against my own. Witnessed, said the Ash Court itself, in a voice like wind through the towers. The forgetting, for the first time in its long gray life. Let someone go. The council could not undo it. The bond is older than they are. My family was sent home with their coin and their silence, and the silence, I think, will cost them more than the coin ever bought. They had thrown me out for my sister. The Dragon King had been said to buy me to die. Instead he knelt. And the girl who was twice given away became the one soul his world was forbidden to forget. We live in the Ash Court still. It isn't gray anymore, or perhaps it always had color, and I only needed someone to remember it with me. The roses came back red the spring after. Hale cried when she saw them. I am not idle here. That surprised me most of all. The first time the Drake Council convened after the kneeling, the king set a chair beside his own and looked at me until I sat in it. The counselors did not like it. They liked it less when I began to speak. The tie vends, I told them, not the court. The court can stand, but it will not eat children anymore. It is law, the eldest said. So was my grave, I answered. Laws can be buried too. It took a year, but the saved ones, Hale and all the others the king had hidden, walked out of the ash court under their own names into a world that had to be taught to remember them. I taught it. One name at a time. It turns out the girl too plain to keep had a use after all. I never could stand to let a person be forgotten. He is not a soft man, my king. He is still quiet, still careful, still slow to warm. But every morning he says my name. Out loud. On purpose. Why? I asked him once. I'm right here. I won't forget. I know, he said and pressed his wrist to mine. I say it for the boy who couldn't. I say it so the dark always knows who she is. His ember. Unforgettable. That is the whole of my story. I told you I'd take you back to the start, to a closed door and my name spoken like a debt. I never thought it would end with a king on his knees, saying that same name like the most precious word he owned.